There's one downstairs. I mean, most of the stuff I've written is in Thai, but there is a small book downstairs. I think you're welcome to. Yeah.
One question. You mentioned that in your lifetime, when you were 8 years old, you just simply didn't have any interest, or just getting it makes sense. That's practical. And then you therefore you chose this make an impact. In terms of now with that sense, I'm sure a lot of people came through and had that experience in a very young age. In my experience, I grew up in a Catholic school for 12 years. Priests or nuns. And the teachings are somewhat practical for you as a child, and also very disciplinary. At the same time, it's kind of like the military. It's very, very strict. But that's the only way you can control the people. There's Buddhism. Is there anything in the similarity or how does Buddhism basically teach the kids? Since one day, is there a way, a practical way that you would not be bored? And that's what happened with understanding. Masses bored of understanding this reality. I can see this being more fascinating, more practical. How can it be a way your experience with others or yourself has done to bring these teachings up to a level that will not only be basis but also help them grow?
Well, I've been involved in taking part in this effort to create what's called like a Buddhist education movement in Thailand to try to adapt Buddhist teachings for children and to create a school system more firmly grounded in this Buddhist developmental ideas in the sense of an all-round development of the child, both in terms of his conduct, his relationship to the material world, relationship to the social world, emotional development and intellectual and wisdom development. And started off in school in Bangkok, Torsi School, and now we just recently opened a boarding school a mile or so away from here, and this is the headmaster over here. So this is kind of an ongoing thing to develop some systems and structures to the education system in Thailand was for a very long time very successful if you were a boy, not so good for girls, but the levels of literacy say 200 years ago were far in advance of what they were in the West. In the late 19th century, the education system was turned over to the state. It was originally run by the monks in the monasteries. It's turned over to the state, and for the last 100 or more years, it's pretty well followed Western practices, Western standards, and so it's a kind of a poorly digested version of Western educational model, and it's not really, I don't think, worked very well. And so I've always felt it's rather frustrating that we have the religion of 90% of the people in this country is one which is, in essence, an education system. It is the supreme education system. So why hasn't there been any effort to adapt this whole education system that the Buddha gave us in a way which is appropriate for children and on a level which children can benefit from? I think that in fact many years the leading Buddhist scholar in this country, ท่านเจ้าคุณประยุทธ์พระพรหมคุณาภรณ์ he was one of the pioneers in this, and many years ago I went to see him and I said, what I see as one of the problems in Thailand is that in the West, exactly as you say, okay, for all of its faults, you have like these like 10 commandments or 5, and this, okay, you're a Christian, you've got to accept the 10 commandments, and it's kind of very, very clear cut. Whereas in Buddhism, there are just so many teachings, and it's so kind of diffuse that people just don't quite know, what does it really mean to be a Buddhist? Where does it start? And so I said, would it be possible for us to sort of condense some kind of major kind of Buddhist principles as something that could be promoted throughout the country for children, for families? It's just a kind of an orientation, as it were. There's just a basic kind of sense of what it means as a Buddhist identity, as it were. And so he, after that, he wrote 1 or 2 books, and it's been gradually working that. And then just last year, he came with like sort of 12 points, sort of like principles of Buddhist principles for. So the idea to try to propagate that and to give a kind of like a very easy point by point, what are the basic things involved if you say you're a Buddhist? Because there's so many people can't really answer your question. If you ask them, say, okay, you're a Buddhist, what does that mean? What's it all about? And people say, well, do good thing, be good, something like that, and I say, yeah, well. So when I was abbot at this monastery in Boon, you get a constant stream of Thai women bringing their Farang husbands. He wants to know what Buddhism's about. Can you teach him? Can you tell him? Why don't you tell him yourself? You should be able to give at least a sort of a basic understanding. So there's a real problem of propagation and understanding of basic principles in this country, and a failure of education system, really. So I'm interested in trying to do something about that. Yeah.
What is missionary view, or maybe mentioned already before, is something to do with translation from our Western languages to Pali or Sanskrit, so the meaning of life.
That's what my book's about downstairs. You can read my book. Yeah. Well, there's not the word love as we use it in English covers a wide. We use the word. I love fish and chips. I love my mum. We use the same word. So it's a little bit kind of diffuse. So in Buddhism, we talk about various different kinds of love, and again using that same kind of basic structure of that love which involves suffering and is based upon craving as being the sort of inferior kind of love, and then a selfless, unconditioned kind of love as being the sort of the supreme or the highest level of love. And so the idea is that in the expression of love, we seek to educate our love and to move away from the more selfish, self-centered, conditioned kind of love towards, as far as we can, towards the unconditioned and wide-ranging or unbounded kind of love. So that this supreme kind of love we call metta. This which is a universal kind of love, and the more conditioned and the more selfish kind of love, is called something else altogether. So it's a different way of talking about it. So there's not a rejection of love, but a recognition that there are many different expressions of love, and something which can very easily be a cause of suffering if we're not careful. But if we if we're wise and intelligent and we seek to train ourselves, then it can be a wonderful thing in people's lives. So anyway, you can read the book downstairs. It's a little bit more deep.
Just now in the talks you said when you were living in your teens, there's some questions which came up into your mind. That what is the best thing you can do in your life? Why are you so suffering? And all such, so many other questions. Which some books of Buddhism which you got and give you some clearer picture, much more than Christianity. Of course, that gave you like the first hint into the path. And then onwards, of course, over 30 years you've been in this path. I'm sure most of the questions will be answered by now. Now my question is there any question that is unanswered even after being meditating for over 30 years? Are there any questions still
Actually, I was asked this question on that youth retreat last month. I had all these teenagers there, and somebody asked me this very question. After all this time, is there one question that you still haven't got an answer for? And I said, yes, I do. The question is, why is it that everyone agrees at the beginning of a retreat that they won't talk, and yet everybody talks all the way through the retreat? So I still haven't worked this one out. Well, I mean, in terms of intellectual understanding of Dhamma, I mean, I don't see any significant holes or gaps, but it's only an arahant who, has answered all the questions experientially. And I was referring to Buddhism as a education system, and one of the words that is used to describe the arahant is aseka pugala. So aseka means a graduate, one who's finished the training, who's nothing more to learn. So the idea is that everyone except the arahant still has something to learn. And I think, the moment somebody says they've got it all worked out, then, that's a dangerous position to adopt, I think. I think probably enough for this afternoon. I'm enjoying it myself, but I have some people waiting to see me planting some trees, so I think maybe I do.